Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms chats where we share information that will help families to keep their kids learning in spite of the challenges of the pandemic. And I'm so excited that so this week is the first opportunity to enroll at Pre-K for SA for the coming school year. And so we shared out our updated enrollment guide blog post. And if you haven't seen that yet, there's a link to it in the description of this video. So I encourage you to click through. It's got lots of great information. And then to talk about Pre-K for SA, we have CEO Dr. Sarah Baray. So welcome back, Sarah.
Hey, it's great to be back. It's love to be on this show and happy to be chatting with you again, Inga.
Yeah, and the last time we talked, it was in October and kind of the lean up to the election, and the voters approved continued funding for Pre-K for SA. So I was very happy on election night to see that outcome.
Yeah, we were too. We were very excited and really grateful that San Antonio sees the investment in our youngest learners and said, let's keep doing it and let's do more. So we're thrilled to have another 8 years in front of us.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, I wanted to ask you, it ties back to our conversation back in October, but, the issue, the voters decided that they agreed with this, the proposition that, we all want San Antonio to have a brighter future economically, and we want to improve the material well-being and the choices and, health of our city. And that one way to go about that, to improve the economy and the workforce is through early childhood education. Mm-hmm. And so I wondered if you could explain the connections, or what's the theory of change about how Pre-K for SA will help San Antonio be more prosperous and better prepared for the future.
Yeah, back in 2012, San Antonio was one of the first cities in the nation to really get that early childhood is the way to prepare not just children for school, but actually for life, and to build a strong education and workforce trajectory. And so we actually are a workforce development initiative, and that actually happens in a couple of different ways. One is when young children have access to high quality early learning, they build strong brains, and that then sets them up for success in school and life. But it also helps because one of the greatest barriers to people working full-time or going back to school to improve their skills is having access to high-quality childcare. So Pre-K for SA, with our 4 centers and our work with childcare centers and programs across the city, is helping to make sure that families have a safe and quality place for their children to go while they are working. So we're both working on the workforce of the future, but also the workforce of today and helping to support that. So San Antonio has been proven time and time again to be wise on that investment, because we have external evaluators who look at what we're doing in San Antonio, and they've shown the benefits that San Antonio is getting from Pre-K for SA. So I think that went a long way to having the voters say yes again, and also to having other cities across Texas and across the nation who are following suit and trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I know I have visited the North Center, the one over by the medical center area, and I've been to the South Center, which is the one, it's near Brooks, right?
Yeah.
That one. Yeah. And they're different. They have their unique aspects, but it's really encouraging to see like how happy the kids are, and like how much they get to express themselves. And how multicultural like the North Center is, and like how much the kids are learning about. I remember at the South Center, there's lots of things on the walls that help students learn to listen to their emotions and kind of manage their emotions and relate to each other in constructive ways. It's really inspiring to see it.
Yeah, that's built into the fabric of Pre-K for SA, because that's really what high quality early learning is about. A lot of people think it's, kids learning their numbers and their letters, and while that's important, what it's really about is that brain development. And that's what all the research shows, is that when we help children build strong brains, specifically around what we call executive function, and that's the ability to regulate your emotions and your behavior, and to make plans and to implement those plans and assess how well you did, and then adjust your plans based on whether the outcomes were what you wanted or not. That executive function is best developed between the ages of 4 and 5, which is when we have the children, but it's been tied to long-term outcomes in school, like better behavior, better success, but also in college and career, because it helps people negotiate those sort of intangible, those things that happen that aren't planned. Like a lot of people think that kids drop out of college because they don't get good grades, and that's all that can happen. The primary reason is because other things happen. Their financial aid runs out, their roommate's driving them crazy, they don't get the classes they need. And if they have strong executive function, that helps them negotiate those kind of challenges successfully. And then in career, of course, there's lots of career changes. Again, executive function comes into that. So early learning, the benefits last a long, long time throughout life. And so that's why San Antonio was so wise to start investing early so long ago before anybody else was really thinking about that.
Yeah, and you mentioned the aspect of, right, so it's a full day program, and that provides high quality childcare while the parents are working, and that's an aspect of the economic development, and part of it is like the affordability of pre-K for SA. It's a way to make high quality early childhood education more accessible to families across the income spectrum. So I was wondering if you could talk about that, like sort of the cost and the accessibility of high quality childcare.
Right. So pre-K for SA is actually open to any child who will be 4 by September 1st. And September 1st is the set date because that's the Texas Education Agency sets that for pre-K enrollment. But we are open free for families that qualify. The Texas Education Agency has set certain criteria, and a lot of those around poverty, language, homeless, children of our active duty military. Yeah. And so a lot of people don't know that either, but we're open, that's free for them. But even for families that don't meet one of those qualifications, we have a very affordable sliding scale tuition program that is aimed at making sure that pre-K for SA is really available to any family, regardless of their income. And as we expand, one of the things with reauthorization is that we're looking to be able to offer more free seats to even more of San Antonio's families. We know that there are families out there that make a little too much to qualify based on the state indicators for free public pre-K, but they don't really make enough to afford it in the private sector. And so that's where we're looking to create seats to make sure those families have a free option also. We're kind of assessing how things happen with the pandemic. Things have changed so much over the last year in terms of the economy and how many families are needing financial assistance. But as we get better information about how many children need support and where the programs are and the seats are, we'll begin to make those seats available to families, both at our pre-K for SA centers, but also working in partnership with our school districts, with our charter schools, with private schools, broken schools. We're agnostic when it comes to high quality pre-K. We say anyone that's willing to offer it, we're willing to support. And so we know that San Antonio has lots of different great programs out there, and we certainly want to make sure that those are available to our families.
Yeah, I know that we've had discussions in the San Antonio Charter Moms discussion group on Facebook. And to anyone listening, if you're not already a member, please be sure and join. We're here. I'll pop the link up. It's
and I will second that because that's a powerful group of really. It's a great network to be connected to. So absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's parents helping parents and caregivers. If you've got a question, somebody in that group probably knows the answer.
Right.
So there's lots of buzz there's lots of pre-K for SA alumni families in that group, and they will testify about what a great experience it was for their kids and how it prepared them for the future. And they do talk about affordability and that they're grateful that pre-K for SA was affordable, and they talk about the high quality private childcare centers are quite expensive, and it puts families in a bind because maybe they want to go back to work and put their child in a high quality setting, but the cost is so steep.
And even with our
there's a phone call in my earbuds.
Even with our school programs, sometimes because they end at 3 o'clock. Okay, I'll keep talking while you're doing it. So even while with our school programs, they end at 3 o'clock, and although most of them are of our school districts offer extended day programs, that could be an additional cost. At Pre-K for SA, we offer those at the whole 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock free of charge for families that are working full time or going to school full time, because we understand that you can't just stop at 3 o'clock and pick up your child. So
no, that's not real. No, that's not real. Bears don't act in packs. So the things that makes wolves so
I'm so sorry, I can't find my phone, and now it's making strange noises. Sarah, can you talk for a little bit longer, and I will.
I will talk all about pre-K. So, right, and so we're also working with child development centers to help them make their programs higher quality and more accessible. But for right now, we're really looking forward to enrolling 2,000 children for the upcoming school year. And while we're not quite sure exactly what that's going to look like. We anticipate that we will be able to be in person. We're hopeful that the vaccine rollout will continue, which is going to make in-person schooling even more safe than it is now. And so we have opened up our application process yesterday, February 1st, and we're already accepting applications and helping families to get connected and get prepared for August, because it'll be here before we know it. And even now, we still offer, even in this crazy pandemic, we have in-person learning, which is quite safe for children. We've put in a lot of mitigation measures to make sure that the virus doesn't spread throughout our buildings, and if somebody does have it, that we identify it quickly, are able to control it. So we're really hopeful that by next year we'll be back to even more normal, and making sure that that's available to even more families than we could make it available this year.
Sarah, I owe you like a coffee or something the next time I see you for picking up. So my dad called and then it set off this chain reaction of like podcast and like
these are the pandemic times, right? This is, we're all living with this. So I'm and anytime you give me an open microphone, I'll continue to talk about pre-K for SA all day long. So no worries.
That's exactly what we're here for. So thank you. And yes, I think everything's squared away. So yeah, my dad is giving my daughter some telephone tutoring on her English language arts class. So he read the book too, and it's very cute. So, but yeah, sometimes they don't connect. She's new at using her phone, and
we're all learning through this. That's one thing. It's actually been one of my favorite things about this whole thing, is getting to see, children at home, pets, all the stuff that we've always been dealing with, but nobody's wanted to acknowledge. It's all out there for the whole world to see now.
That's true. Yeah. And in some ways, my kids have learned to be independent in some ways, and like use technology, and they write emails to their teachers, and so there's good and bad, but it does create some chaos. And so then I'm very grateful for when people give me grace, and I try to also extend grace when unexpected happens.
That's one thing I think we've all learned. If we didn't have it before, I think we have a little empathy for, especially for moms. I mean, dads are going through it too, but I think it's pretty clear that moms bear the brunt of childcare still, and that means that those of us that are working or doing other things while we're doing schooling with our children and childcare, it just all sometimes comes crashing in one video screen. That's okay.
That's true. It's true. Yes. Okay. So, and then I think you just continued with what I had been asking you about, right? Which is we were talking about affordability, and then you were talking about sort of like how pre-K for SA has adapted during the pandemic. And so if you want to continue with that, go ahead. And I'm also curious about how, I know it's hard to forecast during the pandemic, but the coming school year, what things you might think might happen.
Sure. Yeah. So as soon as we were, along with the school districts last March, we closed our doors because we just didn't know. We didn't have the information about whether it was safe to have children in our buildings, and we wanted to make sure. We also wanted to make sure that we were serving our families in a way that was, most appropriate, which we ended up doing food drives and all kinds of distributions, helping to provide critical supplies. But then we started thinking about right away, how do we open back up safely? So we spent last summer retrofitting our buildings with touchless sinks and water faucets and thermometers and all kinds of pieces in there that would make it safer, not just in COVID times, but really it'll make it safer when we return to whatever normal times are. And because flu, cold, all kinds of things are spread through touch. And so now we have all the devices in there that help to reduce that. And then we were able to, in September, open back up for in-person learning, but we did reduce it to a 50% capacity. So normally we have 1,000 or 2,000 children in our centers, 500 in each center, but now we're have 1,000 this year, and we are hopeful. But that's gone really well. What we've learned is that children, one, are not the super spreaders we thought they might be, but also they're not as likely to get it as adults. And even though we've seen an uptick in children recently with the latest surge, it still is much lower percentage than with adults. And so our kids are great. We've taught them how to wear masks, and sometimes they're wearing masks and shields together, and it's like what they do when they go to school. And so they don't think anything of it. And that strategy of keep the virus out of the building by limiting, making sure that we're screening people every day, we're limiting who comes in the building, and then reducing the chance of spread, cleaning, wearing masks, social distancing, all of that. And then if we do have cases, identifying those and isolating those early. that has been really effective in preventing spread in our buildings. And the cases that we've been dealing with are actually cases that have come from outside. It's either through staff or children who, had a family member who were sick and they ended up getting it, but we do weekly testing. So our staff gets tested every week, so we catch the asymptomatic cases quickly. We also do a limited testing with children to help make sure that we're monitoring, because some little ones, they have just chronic, sniffly noses and allergies, and goodness gracious, we don't want to be sending them home all the time. So we're starting to do a little bit of asymptomatic testing with them. And so what we've learned from that is that we can operate our centers very, very safely. So even next year, even if we're still in sort of this pandemic state, we'll be able to open up. But again, we're really hopeful with the vaccine rollout. And even though it's not going quite as well as some people had hoped, San Antonio is so fortunate that we have such great leadership in our healthcare systems and at the city to be able to get that vaccine out to more families. So we're going to go ahead and enroll 2,000 children, and we'll monitor the situation though, and figure out, do we start in person? Do we start remotely? Is there at some point, but we think some point in the fall, probably pretty early on, we'll be back to 2,000 children in our centers.
Yeah. So, something that we've noticed from families, like some families have chosen just to, kind of keep their kids home when they're 3, 4, or 5 years old. And like we tried like through our blog or, through like guest authors, like to try to offer resources about like, teaching, like the social emotional stuff or, like early reading, like math games and things like that, stuff families can do at home. But, and I think there's definitely benefits to having kids, in the centers and being able to interact with each other.
That's right. So while we certainly support families that are educating at home, and we part of what came out of this whole crazy time was our online resource center. So we have lots of videos and lessons and all kinds of ideas that families can access, and we hope they do. But you're right, children learn a lot from one another. And so when they have the opportunity to be in a classroom with a highly skilled teacher and with other little learners who are experimenting and trying things and doing things they might not have thought of, and they really learn a lot from one another. And that time is so critical because, again, we know from brain development research that the first 5 years, 90% of our brains develop. And, Harvard, latest research out of Harvard tells us it's 1 million neurons a second that neural connections being made in the brains of young learners. And so it's like, that's mind-boggling, which means not just every day, but every minute matters. And so we want all of our young children to have access to that kind of environment that supports their learning. But we also want to support parents as teachers too, because parents are our first and most important teachers, and we know what they do at home matters. And so we're happy to connect with our home learning families too. And we even are thinking about, how do we take what we've learned about remote learning, because some of our children are at home learning and with the guidance of a teacher, and is there a way that we can continue to offer that support to families who have an adult in the home who's willing to kind of serve as the teacher, the second teacher in the classroom, working with one of our teachers. So that's more to come in how do we figure out how to do that and again, make it accessible to more people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you mentioned the other day that you actually got to visit one of the centers again. I know there's not a lot of visitors on campus, but it must have been a good feeling to to see kids playing and interacting with each other. And
yeah, so good. I mean, we've really limited who can go into the buildings, even me. So because I don't have direct responsibility for teaching young children, I've really tried to stay out of the buildings unless I need to go in, but had the opportunity to go visit with my mask and shield and all the good stuff and see children in their classrooms in person, which was so fantastic. And it just made my heart sing, because that's really my favorite part about being at Pre-K for SA is even though I'm part of the corporate office, my office is actually in one of the center buildings. And so anytime I want, I can go down and see those beautiful children and see the learning that's going on, which just, because as you said, they're so joyful and the teachers are joyful. And it just makes me feel like, okay, the world's going to be okay, no matter what kind of craziness is going on. And so this year, I've really missed that because we've really limited that. So very happy to do that. And again, looking forward to a more normal time, hopefully in the near future, when not just myself, but having people like you, having prospective families, having policymakers, having people in our buildings, because we always say we're a seeing is believing program. When people walk in, they can see the magic of the place. And I count myself among those. When I visited Pre-K for SA for the very first time, I was blown away. It's why I'm here, because I was like, I got to be part of this. So hopefully we'll get back there soon.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm looking back at my notes just to
Okay.
make sure I don't miss anything. Did I ask you about? Let's see. Okay, you said as far as affordability, like y'all are studying that. Oh yeah, this is what happened right before my phone rang.
Yeah.
That but I just want to make sure I understood the details. Okay, so the goal is to enroll 2,000 students for the coming school year, and that y'all are looking at the budget as far as because the voters approved the funding again for another 8 years. What would the tuition structure be, to allow as many families as possible to enroll, to make it affordable for them, but that y'all are still studying, you know, right. The pandemic has had an economic impact on San Antonio, and some families are in a tough situation as far as
Right.
what they can afford. So, okay.
Right. And that's right. And so we want to make sure that we're taking care of the families who are in the greatest crisis and have the greatest need first. But even with that, our tuition program is so affordable. It can range from a few dollars a month to, a few, to $100. It's much, I mean, people think that it's going to be thousands and thousands of dollars, and it's really not. And so we want to make that accessible, and we're having people apply right now. It's very easy to apply. So it's just, you just go to prekforsa.com and click the apply now button. And one of the things that we've added too, we've been listening to our families who say, even with all the support, sometimes it's hard to get your child registered for school and there's forms to fill out. So we've added registration liaisons this year, where when someone applies, we'll have one of our team members reach out to them, and that team member is going to become their person that they go to. So that team member is going to make sure that family gets walked all the way through the process from beginning to end, and they can ask whatever questions they have. We can help them, because right now the process is all electronic, but we know that some families don't have access to be able to scan things, and so we have drop-off zones. And so that registration liaison is going to do whatever the family needs to make sure it happens, answer the questions, stay on the phone with them if they have questions for the director, our nurse, for extended day, nutritionist, whatever it is. We want to make sure that the family's like, okay, I'm not going this alone. I've got a friend in this to figure this out, because even, it can be confusing, especially if it's your first child, to get into the system and to understand all the things and what forms we're asking for. And of course, we have staff who speak both Spanish and English, and we can actually get help with other languages needed. So we want to really make the process a positive one for families, because we want them to understand that not just at Pre-K for SA, but in schools across San Antonio, we want to partner with our families. We want to make it easy for them to have a great experience for themselves and for their children.
Yeah. So a good starting point is to go to the website, and I've got that up
right.
on the screen right now, the prekindergarten.com. And then, but so let's say there's and I guess everybody watching this is using the internet,
Yeah.
but but like maybe you have a family's watching this, but they have a friend who's not on the internet. Then they would call the phone number, and then that's how they could connect with one of the registration liaisons.
That's right. And so you can call us at 210-206-2700, or, the Pre-K for SA, you can call any one of our centers. You can get on our website, and like I said, but even if you get on the website and you say, I still want to talk to somebody in person, let us know. We're happy to do that. And so we want to make sure that every family feels like they're supported in the process, and that they get all their questions answered, and that they know what they need to know to make decisions, because we know that where your child goes to school, even for Pre-K, is a really important decision for families, and we want to make sure they feel good about it. And although we know Pre-K for SA is a fabulous program, we want to make sure every family feels that it's the right program for their child. And so we're gonna help them through that, and we also want to help them get connected to all the resources, because Pre-K for SA helps families like you do connect to one another, to think about other resources in the city. We know especially now people need help with housing and food and all those things, and we can certainly help families get connected to those resources as well, because we know that children come with families, and the families need to be well taken care of as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to recap. So the website is a good place to apply. They're not able to do in-person tours because you're limiting visitors to the campus.
Yeah.
But you guys are, there's staff members who want to answer questions and want to help parents, whether it's in English, Spanish, a different language,
Yep.
to try to make it as easy as possible as far as the paperwork or asking questions about, like you mentioned, like the meal program, extended day,
Yeah.
transportation, like all the different eligibility, like the boundaries, right? Because like
Yeah.
it applies to most of the districts in the city, not every district. And then the age limitation that it's for 4-year-olds, and there's a
Absolutely. And also, we do have a lot of videos on our website, so we're trying to update those so that families have. We're going to do some virtual tours, those sorts of things, so they can see what it's like inside the building. And we can even, if a family really has questions about it, we're happy to, walk them through kind of the day in the life of what does it look like when your child comes to pre-K for SA. And we're happy to connect them with other families that can talk to them from their own personal experience about that. So again, we want to make sure that families know what they're getting into and how exciting it's going to be for their young child.
Yeah. Well, that it's always. I mean, I've done this for my own kids. Like trying to find the right school, and you're so nervous about like, well, if I bring my kids to the school, will they be happy there? Is this the right place?
Right.
So I know what a tough decision it is, but
Yep.
but also I know, like, I mean, I have visited pre-K for SA, and I know it's a well-run, it's a high quality program, and I know you guys are bending over backwards to make information available about what the program is like. And I think that's really all that any family can ask for is like, are you going to partner with us? Are you going to answer our questions and, help us, try to foresee, like, what will school be like for our kids?
Yeah. And I think if there's information that families say that they need that we don't have, we're certainly, let us know, because we'll put that on the website. We'll answer it for you, because we want to be as informative as we can, and we want to be able to have that information available to families whenever they need it. Even, we know families are working all kinds of different hours. And so if they need us to make evening appointments to have a conversation with them, we're happy to do that as well, because we know these are unusual times, and gosh, we're all just trying to get through it. And we want to be parents partners in that and make sure that the enrolling for school, but making sure that families get connected, because 4 is such a critical age for young children to be in school. And it's an important year to get a great start in education, not just for kindergarten, but really long lasting. So we're excited to be able to talk about it and want to help in any way we can.
Yeah, I feel like I'm so happy to talk to you, but I'm also like, I know there's like so many more things that I want to ask you about, but I think we'll just have to save them for like future.
We could have lots more conversations. Yeah, we can talk about all kinds of different things. And I always enjoy visiting with you and your groups. And like I say, you have a powerful network out there of mostly moms, but parents that are.
I checked the stats. It's 94% women in our group.
Yeah, it is. Well, that's the reality of it.
It used to be 90%. I guess I don't know. We keep adding more women. So.
Yeah. Well, that's the reality. As much as we've changed, it still falls to moms to take care of the kids and make those educational decisions. But that's good. We can all learn from one another and support one another. So really appreciate your network and being able to do that. And I do want to encourage families that aren't members to join in there and to go to our prekindergarten.com website and get information about pre-K for SA.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us. Like I said, prekindergarten.com is how to get more information and how to apply. Yep. The link in the description of the video takes you to the enrollment guide blog post, and that has kind of a summary of the eligibility and how to apply and stuff like that. But it's a great website. It's full of lots of detail, and like Sarah said, there's staff members, there's these liaisons who are happy to answer questions and help navigate parents through the application process.
Thanks, Inga.
Yeah, thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you again and be able to visit your office sometime.
Soon, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so. Okay, take care.
All right, bye.